Alright guys, what we're going to talk about today is a peasant's plight. So this is going to be, or I should say my intent is for this to be a solo journaling game that's accessible. I personally have attempted to play quite a few solo journaling games, solo RPG games. And I find myself, on page 80, page 40, page 120, with a lack of desire to continue before I've even started playing, and really in some instances. So that's not a knock on anything. That's just where I am. That's where I am with this. That's what was my intent in coming into this, is to try to make something different enough, as much as you can, in this genre, but with that initial goal in mind, is to make something that's completely accessible, not necessarily for someone who's never played a solo journaling game before, but hopefully they could absolutely pick this up and start reading and know what to do. So that's the intent behind this. We'll see where it leads, but I've got a couple things here. I've got 15 pages, more or less. We're gonna go through, and I'm just gonna show you where we are in the process. So, like I said, a peasant's plight. That's gonna be the name of it. Here we've got just a general introduction, as you always do, indicating the basic concept, where we are, what the premise is. Indicating here, a big point in my opinion is all you really need is this, a D20, and some record-keeping device, a pen and paper, tablet, etc. Then you can come on down, and again, a little more in-depth where we are, what we're looking at. And then we're going to go into the first set of first table, if you would. So this is basically letting you know, hey, okay, now you're going for your occupation. So this is a nice little setup paragraph, and you're gonna roll a d20, nice and easy, and you're gonna get what you get, and that will determine what your peasant's lot in life is, as far as their job in 1400s England, where this takes place. Then we come on down, and now we're going to go into, again, a little blurb here, and we're going to roll a d20 and figure out where we are. So we've got what we do, then we're going to go to where we are, and of course this will help with the intent. That's what I'm trying to go through here. I'm not trying to say to play it, intent. The intent here is it's just to give you a general idea of where you are, which ought to help to determine some of your responses to future things. Then we're going to come on down. Now we're going to go into the lord, the lady, the baron, the governing body of you, or wherever we are. Again, roll on a d20, and the intent here is there's going to be plenty of interaction with the different systems that would exist in such a town back then, and of course those could very easily lead all the way up to the Lord himself, or just the general stuff can be directed based on how that person treats his people, how that person looks at his people, how that person tells his knights, the bailiff, how to interact with the common folk. So that's the intent there. It's just again to facilitate specifics and ideas surrounding what will be the meat and potatoes here in a minute. All right, so here is where we're going to get to so that's basically your setup for now. I've got some ideas we'll talk about in the next one if I flesh them out. Now we're going to go into the day-to-day. So the basic concept is you've got your guy, you've got what you do, you've got where you are, You got who's the ruler of your local area. And then you're going to go day to day, currently as it stands, day to day, rolling against this D20 list, table. And it's going to give you what's going to unfold from the day. And they're from the mundane is number 2, just a quiet day. Nothing unusual happens, leaving you with time to reflect or tend to personal matters. So that's a very open-ended one. You catch that one in the middle of a bunch of chaos. That might be great to flesh out some things. All the way up to a harsh punishment. A mistake, whether yours or another's, leads to punishment or extra labor. So it could be absolutely nothing. It could be horrible like that. It could be a bountiful discovery. You stumble upon unexpected supplies, useful materials. How does that play out? Especially where you are, what you do. And the intent here is just to move everything day to day. With special emphasis was put when I was creating these to ensure that they are agnostic versus your occupation, versus your lord or lady, versus your location. So it hopefully it flows good. But that's where we are now. I've got some ideas leading into. I'm possibly going to flesh out tonight, hopefully, or the next day, some carryovers. I don't want to use the word consequences necessarily because it has a negative connotation, but consequences nonetheless in regards to the task. So if you have a specific task that may play itself into the next day or may play itself into multiple days, depending on what it is, good or bad, which could also add a layer of complexity the longer you play. So instead of just one task every day, which seems very mundane, you could end up with multiple tasks due to something good or bad happening a month prior. You could do a really good job for somebody, so now they're on you once a week. So every Wednesday you have an additional task that you have to deal with on top of whatever you have rolled, and in lieu of whatever you have rolled, depending on the severity of the thing. So that, and then I'm looking at more than likely some form of guarantees at, like, let's say day 5, day 10, day 15, 20, that type of deal. Bigger things that you would have experienced. Think war, famine, plague, coronations, parade style endeavor. All kinds of goodies, good and bad. And then possibly some type of in-game mechanism, some type of doom clock. So let's say, you get 5 negatives, then you have to roll against just a 50-50 shot whether you're toast or not, and how that plays out. Something along those lines. I'll flesh those out. But that's where we are. If this interests you, let me know. If something sticks out, let me know. If you could care less, let me know. But yeah, hopefully you like it, and we'll see where we are next time.